I haven't seen any Jewish people running up on mosques with Israeli flags. If they did that, I'd be denouncing that too. You show up there with your face covered. You show up there chanting "River to the Sea." That would be just like a white person running up with a Confederate flag in Harlem.
Hey, Van Jones works for CNN, and he had a really remarkable moment that stunned everyone at the network last night. Van Jones, wait for it now, buckle up, take a deep breath, get ready. You're going to be shocked. Van Jones spoke the truth on CNN, and he made a lot of sense. Take a watch.
At the same time, I think it's a little bit naive for some people to think that if Israel would just suddenly just stop doing what it's doing, that rainbows and bunnies and sunshine would break out over the Middle East and it would all be fine. The hostages have to be returned. If you can call for a ceasefire on both sides. Hamas is still firing its rockets. They still have hostages kidnapped. So this is a complex issue, but here's what's not complicated. Politics can be complicated. Geopolitics can be really complicated. How you treat your neighbors, how you treat people in your community is not complicated. You don't run up. I haven't seen any Jewish people running up on mosques with Israeli flags. If they did that, I'd be denouncing that too. There's certain things you don't do. It is a red line. If you want to be a part of a protest and they say, we're going to go to a Jewish community center, we're going to go to a mosque, we're going to go to a Jewish restaurant. That's not a protest. That's a pogrom. That's an anti-Jewish bigoted act. If you want to be a part of a protest, let's go to a mosque. Let's go and harass the Muslims. That's not a protest. So we've got to get clear in our country what is a fair protest about policy, you can agree or disagree, and what's going after people, human beings, terrifying moms, grandmas, children who are trying to be a part of a neighborhood. The Jewish neighborhoods in LA are well known. Nobody is confused where they are. So if you show up there wearing keffiyeh, you show up there with your face covered, you show up there chanting "River to the Sea," that would be just like a white person running up with a Confederate flag in Harlem. You're not trying to start a conversation. You're trying to start a fight. Stop doing that. Don't do that. We don't want more violence. We don't want more fear. We don't want more terrified people. We've got to be able to come together as a country. If either side had an easy answer, it'd have been solved. I'm less concerned about the politicians now. I'm concerned about the people in my community in Los Angeles moving in a direction that is more and more dangerous, more and more scary, more and more destructive. The Jewish community does not need to have people doing those types of things. It's not helping anybody in Palestine, but it's making America a much less safe place for everybody.
Like I said, he spoke the truth and he actually made sense, which is not something you see on CNN at all, let alone from someone like Van Jones. But even he saw what we all saw, that marauding group of Democrat goons hunting down Jewish people on their way to synagogue and beating the living crap out of them on the street. And I got to hand it to Van Jones, broken clock syndrome, right? At least twice a day. He's right. That's not a protest. That's a marauding mob looking to spill blood, like the terrorists that they are and like the terrorists they support willingly. That's not a protest. And God bless us all, but I have to say it, Van Jones on days like this would make a better president than Joe Biden. Because even Joe Biden couldn't bring himself to say what you just heard from Van Jones. The best Joe Biden could muster after seeing American citizens of Jewish descent being beaten to a bloody pulp in broad daylight on the streets of Los Angeles for committing the crime of going to their house of worship, all Joe Biden could muster was this. By the way, even before I read this, let me correct what I just said. All Joe Biden's social media intern could muster was this. Because you know Joe Biden didn't do this. Joe Biden didn't say this. Joe Biden probably doesn't even know that this was put out in his name. He certainly couldn't be bothered to stand in front of a camera at Camp David and deliver a statement. Where is As our friend Stephen Miller, media commentator over at Spectator, said the other day on X, he said, why isn't the media holding Joe Biden to the Charlottesville standard? You know, they demanded that Donald Trump go out there multiple times and deliver various statements condemning the racial and religious violence that they saw in Charlottesville, which, by the way, was not nearly as terrifying as what you're seeing on a weekly basis in American cities and on college campuses right now. We have a Charlottesville on a weekly basis in American cities, and it's being perpetrated by people not waving Nazi flags, waving Palestinian flags. And where's the media holding Joe Biden up to the Charlottesville standard? You must condemn this. You must condemn this by name. You have to. And of course, the suggestion was that Donald Trump wouldn't do that about Charlottesville, even though he did multiple times. But the suggestion was that he wouldn't do that because he was too afraid of losing those votes. Because, you know, the racist vote is the Trump vote, which is a lie. When in reality, the actual fact of the matter is Joe Biden is terrified of losing the so-called Palestinian vote. He's terrified of losing the pro-Hamas vote. It's an open secret. Everybody talks about it openly when they're giving political analysis. Oh, well, Joe Biden has to be real careful here. He doesn't want to use the youth vote, and he doesn't want to lose the vote in Michigan, you know, Rashida Tlaib's district. That's the, you know, pro-Hamas Arabs that live there. Everybody knows that. So again, once again, what they falsely accused Donald Trump of is in reality what we're seeing play out right now in real time with Joe Biden. He is terrified of losing the vote of the people who are perpetrating the violence in the name of Hamas. Literally. So his social media intern was able to put this out. I'm appalled by the scenes outside of Adas Torah Synagogue in Los Angeles. Well, he's appalled. I mean, that should be enough for everyone, right? Thank God. Something's going to be done. He's appalled. Intimidating Jewish congregants is dangerous, unconscionable, anti-Semitic, and un-American. Americans have a right to peaceful protest. See right there. This is where he could have left that first paragraph, and it would have been better than nothing. But then he immediately has to say, Americans have a right to peaceful protest. Well, if I may quote that right-wing conservative Van Jones, this was not a protest. This is a group of marauding anti-Semites looking to spill some Jew blood. Americans have a right to peaceful protest, but blocking access to a house of worship and engaging in violence is never acceptable. Well, gee, thanks, Joe. Or thanks, Sasha. I'm guessing the name of the intern there that does the Twitter feed. That means nothing. It does nothing. It's even an equivocation. It doesn't name names. It doesn't say, I stand with these people. I condemn these people. It doesn't do any of that. And that's why, by the way, later tonight, when you're watching the election returns from New York, Jamal Bowman is predicted to go down in a burning fury. Jamal Bowman is the pro-Hamas anti-Semite who represents the 16th district in New York, and he's being challenged in the Democrat primary right now, mostly because he has neglected the people of that district on behalf of the squad and on behalf of the radical anti-Semitic left that Joe Biden is so concerned about. Well, this is the man who is running against Jamal Bowman, and listen to what he has to say about where his Democrat Party is moving right now.
This race, I mean, if he loses, Jamal Bowman, he would be the first member of the squad who is not returned to office by his constituents. What does that say about your party and what Democratic voters want to see if that happens?
I think what it says is that Jamal Bowman got out of step with the district. He stopped working the needs of the district. He stopped caring about every one of the municipalities and the residents there because there's a certain amount of national image that he seems to care more about, that he's out there as a spokesperson for a point of view. rather than representing people who have legitimate needs in the Bronx. And
So you don't think
Westchester.
it's a referendum on progressive politics of your party?
Well, let me just say this, Caitlin. I know this is probably below the level of interest for most of your viewers. What I've done in running Westchester County is extremely progressive. We've done a host of things. We passed a clinic access law for county government. We've passed access to counsel for indigent people, a host of things like that that mark us as the most progressive county in New York State. The positioning of this race as a progressive against an establishment conservative is inaccurate. It works because the demographics appear to be that, but not on the ground of what
He's
actually
willing
is.
to raise money on wealthy people. Are you?
I'm
To
prepared.
raise taxes.
I'm prepared to raise taxes when we have a budget that shows where the tax money is going to go for, and then it makes sense. That's what I've done as a local official. I don't go into a budgetary process as a county executive or state legislator saying, I'm here to raise taxes. I'm here to try to find the resources we need to do the programs we need. And I think most people feel that way. Certainly in the district, they don't want to just see us raise taxes. They want to see us solve problems. If I can show you that what I'm doing is protecting Social Security, protecting Medicare for the long term, then that makes sense. But just to generically say, I just want to raise taxes, I think that's an ideological statement, not a practical statement.
That's George Latimer, and he's kind of an old school Democrat. And by old school, I mean, 15 years ago, kind of in the Clinton model. And of course, he's bragging about the fact that he's very progressive in Westchester County, which of course should terrify anybody who actually cares about politics and spending and taxing and onerous government regulation. But the one thing he's not is he's not a lunatic. He's not a lunatic, and he knows, based on a built-in, understandable, American-oriented moral compass, who the good guys are and the bad guys are in this country and around the world. And that does set him apart from Jamal Bowman. And it frankly sets him apart from the power center that Joe Biden is catering to right now for his reelection prospects. So let me just make a prediction. I do think George Latimer is going to win. I think Jamal Bowman's going down. And I think this could very well be a canary in the coal mine for Joe Biden and this destructive political strategy he's laid out for himself. Now, listen, it may be too late for him to turn this around. I think it probably is. But if Latimer wins and Bowman goes down, it means that the power of that ceasefire crowd, the anti-Semitic pro-Hamas protesters that are on the campuses of Columbia University and marching through the streets of Dearborn, Michigan, it's not quite as terrifying and as powerful as we've been told. And maybe some sanity will come back to the Democrats. Doubtful, but maybe.